Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone. So today in this video lecture, I'm going to show you how we can work with XML using the BaseX. So I have given the link in iTalim on how you can download the software from BaseX, and also the requirements that it has when you are trying to run the software. I would actually encourage for you to download the zip file from the BaseX. So inside there you already have the Java and everything, so you don't have to find separate software to make sure that the BaseX is running. Okay, just to share with you, I have actually downloaded two files, one from iTalim, which is the XML documents. I have put everything in one folder in which you have the DTD as well as the XML file, which we're going to use later once we have installed the BaseX. And I have also downloaded the BaseX zip file from the website, and I have everything here. So what I need to do is just to extract this file to recommended place. If you have space in zip in drive C, then you can put it there, or otherwise in my case I have actually prepared folder in drive D in which I'm going to extract the BaseX there. And then so basically just run and then extract the files from here to the specified document, specified folder. Okay, right. So I believe for that part you can do it yourself, and then once you have done that, we're going to have a look on the software. Okay, so I have extracted the file to the XML folder in my D drive. Again, it depends on the drive that you have in your computer. The setup will be different from computers to another computer, so I don't really specify which one. It's up to you, but this is where I put it. So I'm going to run the BaseX. Okay, so I'm going to run this. Alright, so when it runs, it should be able to open the applications right away. So this is the how the system looks like. Okay, so it has all the interfaces, which we're going to have the result later here, and then this is where we're going to put the code. And what we're going to do now is, once you have the applications open, we're going to run the XML file. So run the XML file. So in this case, you should be able to open the XML file. If you don't have one, then you should download from iTalim, the one that I showed just now. So download the iTalim XML documents. It will be, if you download everything in one folder, then you should have the DTD as well as the XML file there. Once you have put everything in once you have extracted all these files into the recommended folder, you should be able to see it. So in my case, I'm going to extract all this into the XML file where I have the BaseX there as well. Okay, so once it's there, we should be able to see it from here. Okay, that later on all the files that you have just now is already in this folder. So if you go again to this opening the database, on creating the database, you can just point the file into the XML file that we have just now. So I'm going, for the first example, I'm going to use the university XML. Click open, and then you can name this. If you don't have the name, then you can name this as university. Otherwise, if you want to change the name, you can change the name accordingly. Okay, click OK. Right, so this is where we're going to have the interface of the result, the code. If you want to come up with the queries, this is where we're going to put the queries on. And this is the basically kind of the big pictures of all the data that we have inside from the XML files. Okay, so we know that there is a university, and then inside university we do have a number of departments, we do have some courses, and so on and so forth. So we have also information on the instructors. Okay, and all this we can actually query that using the X query. Okay, so how do we query all this data? Of course, we have, it so happen that we have a small data sets, but what happens if we have thousands of rows or thousands of data that we have inside XML? It will not be wise ideas to search for it manually, right? So in this case, we need to have some query, although this is unstructured data. Okay, so although this is unstructured data, we want to make sure we still able to retrieve some information from the many rows of data that we have inside this XML. Okay, so how do we find certain informations? You can actually use the queries here. So this is the structure. So we're going to use a variable. I'm very sure you have used variable before. So in this case, I will just use any variable. So you can actually name anything, and then you can put in, and then we're going to put doc. Okay, and this is where we're going to put the XML file name. So in this case, the file name is university.xml. This is what we opened just now. Okay, and then I'm going to query department first, just to show you how we can actually retrieve the data. So I'm going to use the department first, and then in here, say I want to show, or maybe we can start with all of the data first. Okay, so return. Okay, so this will retrieve all the department inside the university file that we have here. Okay, so once you have that, it says okay, you can run it, and then it shows the XML file. It actually shows 2 departments that we have inside our files, XML files. Okay, so it shows computer science as well as biology. Okay, so this is if we want to have a look all rows. What happens if we are interested only to see certain rows? I'm very sure if we have many departments and you have certain requirements, you don't want to show everything and then pinpoint on certain rows, right? We want to zoom directly, or we want to show directly the relevant rows that we have inside the query. So in this case, you can still use where, and then we're going to use the variable that we have there. If you want to be specific into particular attributes, I'm going to say I'm going to retrieve only the department that has a budget less than 100. It has 100,000. Okay, so I'm going to retrieve anything that has budget less than 100,000. Okay, it's okay, then we can run it. Okay, so we have one department which the budget is less than 100,000, which is biology. Okay, so in this case, this is how we work with the query if you are interested only certain part of the XML data that you want to display. And later on, you can actually implement all the findings that you have here into an HTML, which is easier for you to display for public use. So in this case, you don't have to display all of the content of the XML file. You can actually use the query, and the query will actually select particular rows that is relevant to your query, and it will display in from this XML file. You can display in HTML. That will be a separate video. Okay, so now let's say I'm interested with the department name. Okay, instead of the budget, I'm interested only on the department name. Sorry, dep name. The informations about the budget as well as the budget and the building of certain department. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to say I'm interested in biology. Okay, it's okay. Okay, so as you can see in here, there's no syntax errors, but when you run it, it doesn't have any results. Okay, so how come? Because we know that there is a biology department here. Clearly, there's a biology department here. Okay, so if you click on the data, you can actually see this biology is not written as that. Remember, everything when it comes to data is case sensitive, including is very sensitive into spaces and all those kind of things. So apparently there is a spaces before and after biology. So in this case, just highlight the whole rows, click C, and then you put that into your file, into your queries here, and then it should show the result there. Okay, so this is how we can actually work with retrieving data from XML file. Okay, so that's one. Let's have a look on different example. That's probably very easy, but what happen if we have certain other queries related to different maybe in database you would call it entity. Okay, so we have department, but this is unstructured. So I have explained in the previous lectures on what each and every of this grouping means. So in this case, if I want to retrieve on course, for example, okay, so I will retrieve on, let me just, to save the time, let me just copy here. Okay, so instead of department, I'm going to search for course, and instead of department name, I want to search for I want to see all of the course that has credits. Okay, so I want to see all the credits which is equal to 4. Okay, so I want to retrieve all the courses with 4 credit hours. It's okay, then we're going to retrieve. Okay, so there are 3 courses, 2 from computer science, 1 from biology with 4 credit hours. Okay, so this is how you can actually use informations from different entity. If you, I'll just try to make it consistent with the relational database, so those terms will still easier for you to remember, because we've talked about entity, we've talked about attribute, although again in this context we are not talking about structured data, we are talking about unstructured data. Okay, right, so now we have this. Let's have a look on a more complex query. I will display the query in the slides, and then we can zoom in directly to the answer. Okay, so this is the query. Okay, so as you can see, those informations that we are trying to search is actually coming from the department. We have budget here, which is 100,000. We have budget here, which is 90,000. So we want to see the total budget for all the departments that we have. So it happened that we only have 2 departments here. Imagine if you have hundreds of departments, of course it will not be handy to actually calculate everything by hand or manually. This is the time where we can actually use the query to solve the issues just now, to calculate the total budget that we've spent on all departments. So how do we do this? So we're going to use variable, a different variable this time, because we're going to derive a value. So we're going to use let, and say I'm going to call it total budget. Okay, so total budget, and here we're going to use sum function, because we're going to total everything, right? So I'm going to use sum function and open brackets, because we're going to have another process inside this sum. So we're going to total this budget, okay, all these values. So we're going to have 4, again we're going to retrieve 4, say I put it as 1, okay, 4 1, or maybe just to make sure it's easier, I'll just use A again, so you know that that's what I retrieve from the values that we're going to calculate here. So for A in doc, and then we're going to again call the XML file. Okay, XML, which one, the university. Okay, and then I'm going to use the department, and I'm specifically will calculate budget. Okay, so I zoom in specifically to the attribute. Okay, so if you have a look here, at the moment this is not actually a numerical, although it looks like a numerical, but you will not be able to calculate things that is recorded as string. So remember, everything inside XML, if you don't actually format it right, it will actually be what we call as string rather than or character rather than recorded as numeric. So to have it as a numeric, we have to make sure we change the data types first. Okay, so we're going to change the data types first. Let, okay, here we're going to have let budget be we're going to convert the data types into decimals, so we can do some addition later on. Oops, sorry, decimal. So this is the A. Oops, sorry, A. My goodness. Okay, right, and then where this is, we're going to make sure that where the number of A is the variable that we're going to retrieve. Okay, so this is, so it is now in terms of it will be treated as numerical, hence we can do some addition. Okay, so now since that we have retrieved that and we have converted that into numeric, we're going to make sure it return, let's return the XS decimal of the A that we set just now. Okay, so as you can see in here, now we have one variable which we're going to add up, and we're going to make sure that all the values retrieved here will be added into the total, but we have just retrieved all the budget which is we have assigned to the A variable. So how do we get the result? So later on, after everything has been added, we're going to add total budget that we have just retrieved from there. So we use the curly brackets and then put the variable in total budget. Okay, so run it. It's okay, so you can run it. Now you can see that the total budget that we have is 190,000, which is exactly the total of these two departments. Okay, so this is how we actually work with addition, or if you want to total all the products, total all the credit hours that you have, then you can define a variable, and then if it's if addition, usually you have to convert the data into numerical first, so you can add up all, and you can also use the all the operators for numeric, which is sum, count, and all those kind of things, average. So after that, then you can display here in XML format, in which then you can transfer this to HTML if you want to display everything in the HTML. Alright, so I think that will be all. I hope this give you an exposure, a good amount of exposure to XML. Just before I leave, if you have finished with all this access query, you can save it. Okay, click save. Okay, it will automatically select which folder that you can save the file to. So I would recommend just to save exactly as what they recommended, which is in this case, it's already select which location it is. So in here, say I will call it as that biology. Okay, so it will automatically give you the extension, so you can just click save. Okay, as you can see in here, it's actually put it as XQ. Okay, and then the same thing for other files, you can save it. Just follow the default directory, and in here I'm going to say this is credit, save, and then the same thing for this. I would just save it as total budget. Okay, so then if you need to open the queries again, you can just open the queries from the BaseX, and then you can modify, or you can run to see the result from the queries that you have implemented. Okay, I hope that will be helpful to expose the basic of XML, and all the best. Take care. Assalamualaikum.